Hey, Water of Life. So it is the week before Christmas, which if your house is anything like ours, you're working at stretching those dollars to stay in budget, get all the last minute gifts. And then in our case, and maybe some of you as well, hiding the gifts because you can't wrap and put them on the tree because the kids will open them. But that is actually not why I'm coming to you today. A couple of weeks ago, you probably had the same experience that I did. Like all of us, on Thanksgiving night, your inbox starts filling up, your apps start notifying you that sales are coming, or maybe even the week before that. It seems like some people are just Black Friday isn't Black Friday anymore. It's the whole month of November. But if you're like me, one of the things that happens is that in the midst of all those Black Friday sales and Cyber Monday sales, some other things start trickling in. Giving Tuesday, in fact, that's the Tuesday right after Cyber Monday. And a lot of those places, organizations, mostly nonprofit organizations, reach out, and it's become something over the last few years that people reach out and ask people to give on a specific day. It's a trigger, it's an opportunity for them to really kind of lean towards their donors and ask for it. Now, what's happened over the last few years is that we've had people come to us and say, why don't you guys do something on Giving Tuesday? And I want to speak to that in just a second. But one of the beautiful things is we wrap up the year from my position, and we'll come to you guys next year and do a ministry year review and tell you all those things, is that we get to finish the year looking at what God has done as we head towards Christmas and New Year's. And for us, that's hundreds of people getting baptized, thousands of people making commitments, dozens of people pulled off the streets because of the work at CityLink. And through the generosity of people like you at Water of Life, we're able to do those things in the name of Jesus, to do kingdom work, and to reach down and do what we'll talk about at Christmas Eve, what Jesus did, which was to get underneath people and lift them up, to kneel down, to come to the places that were the most unattractive and make sure that the people that were sitting in those places understood that they had value in his kingdom. Now, what is interesting for us is that we are, well, technically a nonprofit organization. We're not a nonprofit organization. We're a church. And what we're called to do is disciple people towards giving and being tithers. And I wanted to explain this because many of you have reached out and said, why don't you do a big push or ask people to give in those days? One of the things you might notice is that as a church, we never actually ask you to give. We create opportunities, and we tell you that being a tither is a part of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. In fact, back in September and October, we pushed you and tried to encourage you to understand what it means to be a percentage giver, meaning you're taking a percentage of your income and you're pre-committing that to the kingdom work, whether it's through Water of Life, through a nonprofit, but kingdom work, the church, so that we can see the kingdom grow and do what we want to do with the kingdom work he's asked us to do. But here's the most important part, in my opinion at least, is simply this, that our hearts are surrendered in the things that he has trusted us with. And we say this all the time, that it all comes from him, it all belongs to him. And someday it's all going to go back to him. And for us, tithing is a regular part of what it means to be a follower, which is why we don't do things like Giving Tuesday. There are times we give you capital projects and opportunities to lean in to do things with us, but we never ask you to give. We ask you to pray about it. We put the opportunity in front of you. And some of you, many of you have been given a huge gift of generosity. And there is a difference. Tithing is something that Jesus asks, expects, and we believe that there's a biblical principle for. Now, on the other side of it, generosity is going above and beyond, meaning not just tithing a percentage, but something above that God asks you to do, that you feel compelled to do, that he's empowered and given you to do. Now, our congregation is made up of about 3,000 families on a weekend. So a portion of you already partner with Water of Life and what we do and how we do those things. And we're grateful for your trust. We try to be transparent about where your dollars go. We disclose to you how much of it goes to salaries and out. But one of the things that we often don't talk about is that Water of Life itself tithes on top of all the other things that we do. So we take 10% of everything that comes in through gifts, tithings, and offerings, and we give those things away to people outside of Water of Life, through CityLink, Global Outreach, through ministry partners around the world, even some inside the United States. But we always try to be generous with the dollars that have been given to us, and we set a portion of our budget every single year, a minimum of 10% to give away. Because we don't ask money, we try to create opportunities for giving and for generosity for you and for ourselves. So let me just tell you my personal story real quick. Personally, nothing has been more transformative in my walk with Jesus than me trusting him with dollars. And there's a lot more to that, and someday I'll tell you the entire story. But I went from being somebody that was worth negative to somebody who had stability. And that wasn't something I did. And I think it's important for us to stop and recognize that what we have, regardless of what we think or the world tells us, we didn't generate it, we didn't create it. Now, yes, we create opportunities and you give those dollars away because God moves in your heart. And what we try to do is create things like the Dollar Club, disaster relief opportunities, Israel, people on stage from missionaries around the world. And we create those opportunities as places for you to begin your journey or to do a little bit more. At times we ask you about projects, but those are all things that are spiritual acts and spiritual practices that we believe move our hearts towards being more like Jesus. And why we do that and why I'm telling you this towards the end of the year this year is simply this. Many of you have asked, you said, what does that look like? Why don't we do those things? How does this work? And so we've talked about it. We've talked about being generous. We've talked about tithing. We've talked about giving. And we want to make sure that you understand both we as your church, your pastors, your staff are committed to tithing, but also this, listen, that we are way committed to seeing the world transform through not just keeping Water of Life running. Well, that is real. And your dollars as you tithe and the church community that has committed to Water of Life tithes, we're able to keep the lights on, serve your kids, your families, your young adults, and even the poor. But here's the thing. We've never asked for money at Water of Life. We don't pass a plate. We create opportunities for you to know how to tithe because for years we didn't do that. And every single week somebody would come up to us and say, how do I give here? I've gone to church here for a month and I don't know how to tithe. Here's the bottom line, is we know this, that we trust God with the 90% more than we trust ourselves with 100%. In fact, we even had a campaign once many years ago when we were building some buildings where we gave away 50% of every dollar that came in. We called that campaign 50-50. It was something my dad really had on his heart and something he really wanted to see God do in our church. And that's left us a legacy as a church that's generous, hoping that we could disciple you, your families, our community towards being generous, not just tithing, although that is the first step, giving, tithing, and then being generous. So for us, when people come to us and say, why don't you do Giving Tuesday? Because we believe our job isn't for one day, it's to disciple us to be people who follow Jesus every day. And our hope as you finish up this Christmas season is that you would understand that what we get to do as Jesus followers is stewardship, whether it's our lives, the dollars he's entrusted us with, the kids we get to raise, the churches we get to lead, the small groups we get to lead, the ministries you get to lead, or maybe the department at your work that you get to lead, or simply maybe just leading yourself in a way that reflects the heart of Jesus to the world around us so that we can continue to have passion for God and compassion for people for generations to come. Because those are the things that make Water of Life who she is. And that is people. We've always said this, that people matter. And more than anything today, our hope is you simply hear this, that what you give, what you do, and how we lean towards the future at Water of Life. And God has called us to some amazing things in the future. And we'll bring some of these to you early next year. Some of you already know as you tie up the year in giving stuff that CityLink Phase 2 is coming. We'll bring that to you next year and help you understand what it'll look like for us in the community to partner together to do the good work that God's called us to. So with that said, thank you. Thank you for being generous, but more than that, thank you for being the church that is Water of Life. We love you. And for Man and I, again, Merry Christmas. God bless you. Happy New Year.